Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey Podcast, Patience.
The Online Success Journey continues with episode 313. Every guest shares the path that took them to success. So you'll want to subscribe right now and ensure you'll never miss a journey. I post at least one journey each week, and I would love for you to join me. Today we have Salena Knight, a host of the popular podcast Bring Business to Retail, as well as a global speaker and presenter on scaling retail businesses. Hello, Salena.
Hi, Patience. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. I know my audience are excited to hear your story, but just start by telling us one thing we are going to learn from you today that will help us on our journey to success.
Okay, well, I'm going to give you the single most important thing that will literally change people's businesses. It will change their mindset, and it will probably even change their lives. And even better, you don't need any special tools or strategies, and it's not going to cost you a cent.
Wow. I can't wait to hear more about that. But let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my audience a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your own business?
Okay, so before starting my own business, I was actually an arborist. And for those who aren't familiar with an arborist, that's a tree surgeon. And so I've always been very passionate about sustainability, and I became a horticulturist, and then I went on to specialize in trees and became an arborist. And through the years, I kind of worked my way up to managing teams of basically men, because it's a very male dominated industry. So teams of men, managing contracts and liaising with different stakeholders to kind of get a win-win situation. And I always joke that was my baptism of fire into customer experience, because removing and pruning trees is a very emotive issue for some people. So it taught me a lot about how to negotiate, how to find best solutions, how to placate people who are really upset. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert, but when you're young and you're put in those situations, you do have to adapt and learn. And basically fast forward to the point where I was pregnant with my daughter, and this was back in 2007, and being very eco-focused, couldn't find any of the products that I wanted to stock in stores. And I know it's really hard for people to remember, but back in 2007, we didn't have data on our phones. So our texting was when we had to push the number 2 button 3 times if you wanted the letter C. And I think a lot of people forget that, because technology has come so far that, especially the young people, they've never had exposure to that. So e-commerce was still very, very new. And I got a lot of my sales actually from parenting forums. So I did build a website, but most of my sales came through the website, but from having conversations with people inside of forums. And I guess that was the part where I realized community was really, really important. And I mean, nowadays we know all of these things. You have collaborations, and we used to call them strategic partnerships, but you have collaborations and you have community. But we were doing things that nobody had ever done before, especially considering this was in the baby industry. The big players that we were up against were places like Toys R Us. And I mean, look what happened to them. And so it did feel like a constant battle to be fighting against the big box stores. But we built this amazing community and went on to build a multi-award winning chain of stores, which I sold in 2015. And then I was actually going to write a book, and the book didn't quite happen because I wanted to share too much information. So I actually developed a program. The original program is not the program that it is now, but the program that it has morphed into is called Scale Your Store. And we go over the 5 fundamental pillars of retail success. And I'm basically here to share as much as I possibly can to help your listeners.
Why do you do what you do? You sold your business, you are okay. Why are you still in business?
Do you know, why am I still in business? I came from a very poor background. We always struggled for money. And it probably is the biggest basis of why I do what I do. Not necessarily for my money, because financial independence is so important to me. And I see so many businesses, and I work with retail and e-commerce businesses, but I see so many retailers who think they have a successful business. And then when you dig into it, they're not getting paid. Everybody else is getting paid, but they're not taking a wage. And that isn't a successful business. And first and foremost, I want to get people's businesses to the point where they are getting paid. Like, you shouldn't be doing this for free.
Let's put man aside. How do you know your new venture was successful?
I didn't. In fact, it was actually the complete opposite, because I came from a very small industry. Like, the baby industry is everybody knows everybody. And I was a bit of a leader in that industry because I was quite pioneering. So I had been on TV and I had been in the paper, and I was hosting classes for like workshops for councils and things like that. And so when I when I sold the business and I moved on, I lost my whole identity, because my whole identity was Salena from that business. And then I became Salena, the retail strategist, and nobody knew who I was. It was literally like starting all over again. And even then, taking what you learnt and putting it into place in a new business isn't easy, because it takes years to learn those things. And if you haven't, I guess, documented, or you haven't consciously decided what it was that made it work, then it's quite often difficult to replicate it. And that's where I'm lucky now, is that I can look back and see all the things that worked. And I say that my superpower is being able to look at a business usually within about 60 seconds and having a conversation with the person who owns it. And I can usually tell what the problem is. And when I say problem, I say the thing that's stopping them from scaling. And it's just a thing. I can do it. And so, but when it's your own business, it's very different, because you don't have that unbiased sort of view. So it wasn't successful at the beginning. I can tell you that straight away. It took several years before I managed to build up that credibility again, and also just discovering who my clients were, because I started out, because I had a bricks and mortar chain of stores, I really wanted to focus on bricks and mortar. But what I was passionate about was e-commerce. And so I needed to kind of marry those two things up. So at the beginning, I was known as the person who talked about bricks and mortar, but I was passionate about e-commerce. And so I had to merge those two things together and show people that what I was good at was building bricks and mortar stores, but also building e-commerce stores. And it didn't really matter. I could adapt the strategies that I had regardless of the type of business. And so that took time. And even now, what are we, 6 years later, we've just hit this point in the business where I've achieved a lot of the goals that I set out to do. And I sat down with the team and we reset a whole bunch more goals. And one of the biggest goals two big goals that we set, the first one was to help 50,000 independent retailers in the next 5 years. And that's a ridiculous amount of people. And that doesn't mean just by listening to the podcast. That is actually in their businesses in some way, shape or form. And the other one is to create the first ever state of the market report for independent retailers in the sub $10 million in revenue range. Because this is the people I love working with. And I love that they can adapt really quickly and they want to put things into place to see change. But quite often they're forgotten. Because when all of these surveys and things go out, they tend to go out to people who are part of retailer associations. And those retailer associations are generally bigger businesses and bigger stores. And you know, your Walmarts and all the big stores tend to be part of that. And so the information they get isn't actually relevant to someone who has either, you know, the mom and pop store on the corner, or someone who has a pure play e-commerce store that's just starting out, or maybe has been in business 2 or 3 years and, you know, might be turning over 300,000 or 500,000. The information isn't relevant to them. And it's also not talking about what their hurdles are, what are their obstacles in business. And so all these solutions get built, but all these solutions get built for big businesses. And I want people to build solutions for independent businesses.
Wow. Wow. Those are 2 big goals. They might be 2 and in 5 years, but wow. Good luck.
Yeah. Thank you.
As you mentioned about 5 pillars of retailer success, tell us more about it.
Okay. So it's taken me a lot of years to work this out. And I was cleaning out my office a couple of weeks ago, and I actually found this piece of paper where I'd pretty much drawn out the 5 pillars of retail success. There were 7, but now I've discovered 2 of those could be mushed together. And so I've been following this strategy for many, many years without even knowing it. And so the 5 pillars of retail success, honestly, if you're listening, you can implement these in any business. It's just that I work with retailers. So the first one is money. And money is understanding how money comes into, flows around, and goes out of your business. And so money covers everything from understanding your break-even point to profit margins to profit goals, and even things like systems and processes. Because if you have a process that is, or if you have no process, you're probably losing money. So you won't be necessarily losing money obviously. You're losing money in the background. We call them money leaks and money fountains. So you'd have this money leak because you don't have a process in place. And probably the simplest way to say that is if someone needs to return a product, what happens? And if you don't have a process, you could end up with 3 people dealing with it rather than somebody just coming in, filling in an online form and getting an automated response. And so you could be losing hours of time dealing with something as simple as a return because you didn't put a process in place. But process is also just like on the inventory side of things, it's understanding how much it costs to have your business. And one of my clients actually increased her profit by 30% in 4 weeks. So that's $30,000 extra dollars for every $100,000 she made. And it was simple as looking at the way that she packed her orders. And so when she did a bit of an audit, in fact, she did quite an intensive audit, she worked out it cost $5 in staff costs to go and pick the product, the box, the tissue paper, the sticker, the free sample. And that wasn't including the shipping. That was just getting the parcel ready to be shipped. And so when she outsourced that to a fulfillment center, the price dropped down to about $3.50. So all of a sudden she had $1.50 extra for every parcel that went out. That was directly in her bank account. But on top of that, and this isn't included in the 30%, she then had her team members freed up to do other work. So they became more profitable, but they also became more productive. And that's because they took the time to look at their money pillar and actually implement it. The next pillar is sales. Now, sales is the making of the money. Sales is pretty self-explanatory. Sales is selling your products to make the money. And a lot of people get caught out here because they don't like selling or they don't think that they're salespeople. If you are in business, it doesn't matter whether you're selling product or whether you're selling services or whether you've got a drop shipping business, you are still in the sales business. Every single business owner is in the sales business. And if you are not actively selling, then you're not going to stay in business for too long. So understanding your sales pillar and focusing on your sales pillar is usually the thing that drives businesses forward. And so an example of that is one of my clients was on around about $110,000 in revenue. And so when she focused on her sales pillar, and we do focuses in every 90 days, we do a focus. And so when she focused on her sales pillar, she did 2 back-to-back sales pillars. So 2 lots of 90 days. And within 5 weeks, she had tripled her revenue. So she was making as much in a month as she was in a quarter the previous year. And at 5 months in, she was on track to do $1 million. Yeah. So, and all because of focus, right? The overarching thing is focusing on one pillar. And it's usually the pillar that you suck at. And that's why you're not doing it, because you don't like doing it. The next one is customers. Now, in the customer journey, you have to attract your customers, you have to catch your customers, you have to connect with them, you have to convert them, and then you have to keep them. And so most people go straight to convert. They don't think about all the other steps in between. So the customer pillar is 1, knowing about all those steps, and then working out which part of those steps is broken in your business or needs attention in your business. And this is, sometimes it's as simple as just knowing which customer you want versus which customer you have. And Stephanie, one of our clients, this was the key thing for her because she was in a small town and she thought that she just had to cater to everybody because it was a town of it is a town of 7,000 people. And so she thought she had to be everything to everyone, but she really, really hated it because she ended up getting people who wouldn't even spend $5 on a pair of flip-flops. And she wanted to build a really beautiful customer experience. She wanted nice products. And when she argued for a very long time that people wouldn't pay, but when she actually made the commitment to turn her store into the store that she wanted to attract those right customers, the store just skyrocketed. And in fact, she doesn't even work in that store anymore. She's gone on and bought the building next door to turn it into a restaurant. And she's also run for city council. Like that is the power of actually taking control of your business. And let me just point out, this is not the one simple thing that you can do. I will share that with you. I'll quickly run through the other two, and then I'll share with you what that is. So the next one is marketing. And marketing is not just posting on social media. Marketing is telling the world that your business exists and getting people to want to buy your stuff. So most people forget one or both of those parts. But marketing is just about making people want what you're selling and then getting them to know that you have got the product. Because you could have the best product in the world. You could have the best service in the world. But if no one knows you exist, it doesn't help you. You don't have a business if no one is there to buy your products.
Because now to lockdowns of COVID-19 everywhere, how are we going to do this? Do you mind share 2 tips how to do this?
2 tips. So my first tip would be focus on the customers you have. That's my number 1 tip over and over again. You have already spent time, money, and effort to get the people you've already got. And that doesn't mean you have to have a lot. You could have 5 people who have already worked with you or bought from you. Go back to those 5 people because your chances of success are so much higher. Tip number 1 is always look to your community first. Look at the customers you've already got. You should always be leveraging them and always be putting them through the customer journey. So if they've purchased from you once, what is the next thing that they need in their customer journey? And look at how you can provide that. And the second one for me would be understanding your brand. And so sort of talking back to what Stephanie was, trying to be everything to everyone, what is the thing you want to be known for? Are you trying to be everything to everyone? Because if you don't know why you are here to help your customers, like what is the key thing that they get when they buy from you or they work with you versus somebody else, if you don't know what that is, then you can't, we call them leverage points. You can't hit one of their leverage points. And it will be really difficult for you to build your marketing out if you don't even know why you're here. When you get really clear on why your business exists and how you're going to help your customers, your marketing gets really, really easy. So tip number 1, leverage the customers that you've got. Tip number 2, know the freaking hell who you are. Okay, last pillar is impact. And impact is about building a brand, not just a store. And when I say brand, I don't care about your logo. I don't care about your fonts. Sure, that's part of your package, but it is that what I was just sort of hinting at just then. It is understanding why you exist in this world, but then it is putting it in, like marketing is putting that into context and spreading it to the world. But impact is things like, tends to be when you look at other businesses, usually your competition, and you get really triggered about why are there ads in my feed? Why are they winning awards? Why are they on the morning show? What are they doing that we're not? And the answer is they worked on their impact pillar. They knew who they were. They knew who they served. They marketed it really, really well. And then they leveraged that. But most importantly, they built relationships. So even if you're an introvert, you can still build relationships. And I say relationships with your customers first and foremost, but also relationships with your community. So my biggest competition when I was in business, when I had my retail stores, is now my creative director in my business. Your competition does not have to be your enemy. In fact, we work so much better as a team. And we always joked that, our business would have been 10 times bigger if we would have known each other and gone into business together. So don't think that your competition is your enemy. You should actually be embracing that. And if COVID taught us nothing, it should teach us that when times are tough, we do have to band together. And so I have no problems recommending my competition if it's going to be the best solution for the customer.
Thank you for sharing. What have you learned from business as a whole?
It always changes. Always. It's always changing. It's always changing, but there are these foundations that you have to come back to. So technology changes, what we want and how we want it delivered changes. But at the end of the day, we want products and services that help us achieve a goal. And that goal could just be, I'm really thirsty, so I want a Coke from 7-Eleven. The goal doesn't have to be huge, but we have wants, we have needs, and we want people to satisfy them. And at the end of the day, that's what it all comes down to. The business owner, you have to cut through that noise and look at how you serve the customers. And again, this comes back to what you asked me, why do I do what I do? Why are you listening to this podcast today? What are you hoping to get from it? And then think about that. And then actively listen and go, well, what can I take away? Because you can take something away from every single thing. Every interaction you have, you can learn something. And so it's even just having that open mindset. But let me share with you, I think this is the perfect opportunity. You said, what have I learned from business? This is the perfect opportunity to share with you the secret that people can implement right now that will actually skyrocket their success. And it won't cost them anything. There is literally no excuse for them to not do it right this second. And you don't need any tools, you don't need any strategies, you don't even have to take your earbuds out of your ears. And that one single thing is to stop thinking small. And you may have noticed throughout this conversation, I have never used the word small business. And those two words are actually banned in our company because by their very nature, they are keeping you stuck where you are. It's an excuse. Being a small business is used as an excuse. It's used as a crutch when you don't get the results that you want. And you will find when people start using the word small business, it's usually prefaced with just. I didn't hit my goals. Oh, COVID's been terrible. I'm just a small business. How am I supposed to compete? Oh, look at my competition in my feed. All their ads are everywhere. I can't compete with that because I'm just a small business and I don't have the money. The word small business isn't an excuse. It is not a badge of honor. And nobody is giving out gold stars for you being a small business. So thinking big might look very different. And I didn't say think big. I said stop thinking small. And stop thinking small is just about you not hamstringing yourself with excuses. I told you that I wanted to help 50,000 people in the next 5 years. If I think about that too hard, it is completely overwhelming. How the freaking heck do I do that? You can't think about how. The how comes when you know the destination. The how comes when you tell everybody what you want to achieve. So being here talking to you, there might be one person listening who says, I'm in that category. I'm that retailer. Sal, when you've got that state of the market questionnaire ready, I want to put my hand up and come and help and fill it out because I want to have solutions that work for me. So knowing what you want to achieve, how do you want to change people's lives? Because 9 times out of 10, that's why people go into business. There are people who just buy businesses to flip businesses, fine. But people who are listening to this probably have a reason for being in business. So what is that reason? And then how are you going to change your customers' lives? It doesn't have to be huge. Like if we go back to 7-Eleven, they just want to be open. So when you want stuff, they're there. Great. Changing my life. I can go and get my Coke at 11 p.m. if I want it. I can go and get a coffee. I can go and get a donut. But if you don't know that, then you will stay small because you think small. So now every decision we make in our business is on those two goals. How are we going to affect 50,000 people? And how can we build relationships so that when we release our state of the market questionnaire, which will be about October this year, we have enough people to share that out to their people so we can get the information that we need to make change. And so when I'm faffing about thinking about, oh, I've got to do something really, really, we call it busy work, something that's not going to do anything. It's just going to fill my day so I can feel productive. It gives me the opportunity to catch myself and say, is this really going to help me affect 50,000 people? Is this really going to help me get that state of the market report out so that I can help these people? And if the answer is no, then I have a choice to make. Do I do the busy work or do I go back and focus on something that's going to help me achieve those goals?
If you could rerun the first year of your business, what would you definitely not do?
I would definitely not try and sell the thing that I was trying to sell in the way that I tried to sell it, because I built a solution and I didn't market it I didn't do what I said marketing was. I didn't tell the world that my thing existed and want them to get them to buy it. I just told the world that existed. I wasn't very good because in my head, I'd been working on this for 7 months. It was the answer to every single question I had ever seen in a Facebook group. The answer was in this program. But what I was not very good at was telling people how it would help them. Why did they want my thing? We all can fall victim to that because in our head, we're like, why can't you see that this is the best solution? And so it took a while to step backwards. And when I say a while, it was probably 2 years before I could ditch the ego, because that was what was stopping me, is I believed that this thing was the best. And I still believe it was amazing. And the people who did the program saw amazing success. But because I wasn't very good at telling people why they needed it, I didn't help as many people as I could. So until I could ditch the ego and say, what is the reason people are not buying this? And it was because they couldn't understand why they needed it. I was telling them it had all the answers, but they couldn't understand it because I was already 300 steps ahead of where they were. And so it was really going back to, and it was surveying my customers and saying, why don't you want this? Like, I see you've been to the sales page. Why do you not want it? And the answer that they had was, it seems very overwhelming, answering. And so that was like, oh, our messaging is not good. Well, I rearranged the program so that there were core lessons that you had to watch, and then there were optional strategies. So if you wanted to learn about money, we have, I think, 3 core lessons about money, but then there are a whole bunch of strategies like indent ordering and pre-ordering and stock take and all these other things, which if they're not relevant, you don't have to watch them. Just come back and watch them when you're ready. If we're talking about sales, again, there's like 3 core lessons about sales, but then there are half a dozen strategies, how to do bundling, how to do upselling, like all the things. But if that's not your problem, don't worry about it. Like, come back to it when it is your problem, when it is the thing you need to focus on. So it's what I would do is get really clear on why my customers needed it rather than just finding the solution.
What grounds you?
What grounds me? People. I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive, but COVID did teach me that I get so much energy from being around people. And I need people, as much as I love my family, I need other people to, not necessarily to ground me, but to put me in the mindset that opens me up to ideas and suggestions and the spark. And that's probably the true definition of an extrovert, is that you get your energy from being around other people. And so just recently we did open back up and we did get out of lockdown and I was able to go to a conference, and that was the catalyst for me realizing that we had achieved so many goals in our business and we needed to sit down and do it again, which is really scary because it's easy to just continue on doing the thing you're doing because it feels like you're being successful. But we've done so much in the last 2.5 months now that we've reset those goals. So being around people grounds me, but probably the one thing I need to do to reset every single day is have a bath. At the end of the day, 20 minutes, no people. I just need to have a bath, read my book, flick through Pinterest, sit there, do nothing, whatever it is. But that's my reset time.
What is one thing that has contributed to your success?
Oh, one thing. I think stopping thinking small would be the biggest one. The other one is building relationships. It's very hard to help other people and to grow a business in a vacuum. And so whilst I love talking to people and love being around people, I'm not always great at the next step, which is continuing the relationship. And it's something that I have identified. And this is the good thing about, let me just point out, this is the good thing when you get to the point in your business. So when you first start out in your business, you have to do all the things. But there does get to a point in your business where you have to stop doing all the things and start focus on being, we call it the CEO, but you have to be the leader. And as the leader, you get to stop doing all the things that you don't like doing and focus on the things you do like doing. So one of the things I've identified is I really love making connections, but I'm really crap at keeping those connections. Unless I really, really get along with somebody, what I've discovered is I need somebody who can continue the conversation. So we've called that role maybe a business development manager or strategic partnerships manager, where I like the people or I like their business and I really want to chat more with them, but you can't chat to everyone all the time. So I need to have somebody who I can pass these people off to and say, let's continue the conversation. Because if I want to help 50,000 people, I need a lot of people to help me do that. Setting these goals has made me realize that I'm a great friend, but I'm not always the best as a business friend because I meet so many people, but I don't continue on with that relationship. And so if I want to help more people and if I want to be more successful in my business, I need to continue that relationship. But the question is, does that need to be me? And the answer in some cases is going to be yes, but in other cases, the answer is going to be no. But the relationship continues.
So what is a hamster wheel of hope? What do you mean?
The hamster wheel of hope is where a lot of small business owners get stuck. And I use that word small business in this situation. It is where you wake up every single day, go around and around in circles, and you're crossing your fingers and you're hoping that you get enough customers. You're hoping that you get enough sales. You're hoping that there will be enough money in the bank to pay the bills. There's no strategy. There's no clarity. There's no control. It is literally just crossing your fingers and hoping. And I want to help people get away from that. So even if there isn't enough money in the bank account, being clear that there isn't enough money in the bank account and then being able to say, okay, well, what do I need to do to make this money? Because if you're just getting up and spinning your wheels on the hamster wheel of hope, what's going to change? Nothing. You'll continue to be that small business with a whole bunch of excuses. But if you step off the hamster wheel of hope and you actually step up and be a CEO, I don't care if it's just you, it's a mindset shift. And in fact, here's a little tip that I do with all of our program students is I make them go into LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever they hang out and change their profile name to Salena Knight, CEO, the Retail Academy. So your name, CEO of your business. And you would be surprised, probably about 80% of people can't do that. They don't. And what is it? It's just typing. Doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. But so many people get caught up because they feel like they aren't the CEO. So there's another thing you can do. Will cost you nothing. Just go and change your LinkedIn profile or your Facebook or wherever it is you hang out to CEO of your company. And you'll be surprised at how that changes your mindset.
Let's talk about your business. Tell us more about it and who can join.
Okay, so my business is helping retail and e-commerce businesses to scale. I don't generally work with startups, although all the information that I share can be applied. You just may not have all of the experience that we talk about inside of Scale Your Store. You can find Scale Your Store at scaleyourstore.com, or you can come and hang out with me over at the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, if that's your jam. We share lots of tips, lots of strategies, some mindset stuff, some very inspirational stories about how businesses have gone from nothing to sometimes $1 million a month in revenue in just 18 months. That was our podcast last week. But mostly if that's the kind of thing that you want to learn about, like stop faffing about. We call it faffing about. I don't know if that's a word you have. But stop being caught up in the busy work and just look at what is the next thing. I mentioned the 5 pillars. I do have a free quiz that people can take over at salenaknight.com/quiz. And that will tell you which pillar you need to focus on. But at the end of the day, only you can take the action. You can listen to as many podcasts as you want. But if you don't stop doing all the busy work, if you keep on the hamster wheel of hope, you will continue to be a small business. And if it's just a hobby, that's fine. But if you want a business that actually fills your soul and your bank account, then what are you going to do to get there?
Thank you. There will be more from Salena in a moment. If you are listening on this on a podcasting platform and you are encouraged by Selena's journey, please go to our website at onlinesuccessjourney.com. The site has tons of audio clips from hundreds of successful entrepreneurs' guests' journeys, all there to help you find a path to your own online success journey. The site offers exclusive members-only content, and you can join absolutely free and be part of this amazing online success community today. Check it out. That's onlinesuccessjourney.com. Now, Salena, I would love for you to share more with my audience if you are up for it.
Sure.
Thank you. Do you like to watch a movie or read books?
Depends on the time of day. I like watching movies, kind of drift off, but I always read in bed before I go to sleep. And I prefer TV shows to movies. Short attention span. I would say books because I can go without the TV shows, but I can't go without reading before bed.
Tell us, what is your favorite book that has some relevance to being an entrepreneur?
Oh, okay. Seth Godin's The Dip. It will take you about an hour and a half to read it. I think it's about 70 pages. If you ever get stuck in business, just go and read that book.
If your business was down to its last $100, how would you invest it?
I would invest it by going to some kind of event where I can meet people, because I could meet people who could be joint venture partners, or I could meet potential customers.
If you are going to keep a note to yourself in your handbag every day, what would be written on it?
I don't have a handbag because everything is on my phone. Credit card, everything. I don't take it. But I can tell you the note that is stuck to my computer. It's a green Post-it note and it says, "Success is inevitable."
Do you feel like you succeeded or like you're only on the way?
I think other people probably think that I have succeeded, but I don't know that I will ever feel like I've succeeded because there's always a bigger goal. And that's not a great place to be. I do think success needs to be acknowledged, even if it's really, really small. But I think as visionaries, we are always thinking about the next big thing.
Will you ever stop?
No.
Remind us how we can connect with you.
Okay, you can listen to me over on the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, or if you want to take that free quiz to find out which pillar of business you should be focusing on, head over to salenaknight.com/quiz. It's all free. It will take you less than the time it takes you to make a cup of coffee. It's super fun. We even have a question about what kind of cheese you would serve at an event. The cheese question took us 6 weeks to work out. So it's not boring, it's not fun, but it's all data driven. The answers do actually come from hundreds of surveys and information that we took from retail and e-commerce store owners. So all data driven, but super fun. And it will tell you not only which pillar you have to focus on, but it'll give you a bit of a roadmap on things that you can start doing to work on that pillar.
Serena, it's been great to have you here to share your online success journey with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you. Remember, success is a journey. Don't wait. Let's start the journey. Patience and Serena.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to Patience and her guest and want you to know there are hundreds of episodes available at onlinesuccessjourney.com. Patience would like to thank you for listening to the podcast, and she has a free gift for you on her website, including an audio compilation of her guests' best tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. Additionally, there are special clips of over 250 episodes that have never aired on the podcast, and they're only available to members of the Online Success Journey. Check the website and click on Join Now to get free and instant access. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed on your favorite platform to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the Online Success Journey and listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review the podcast at iTunes and other sites. We appreciate your help and your willingness to share your journey. One last thing. If you're feeling a bit lost or overwhelmed on your own journey, Patience can help. Check out her course on clarity while you're at the website. Finding clarity is a great way to get back on the right path. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.